So as we enter a new year,
Yes.
2018, I want to look back briefly at 2017. Fake news.
Oh, goodness.
We started 2017 where fake news meant one thing, and we end it where it meant something completely different.
Totally became a loaded term.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, where are we now with sort of the state of fake news? Because I think, like, it first entered most people's consciousness around, like, the Pizzagate
Yes.
stuff, right? Like, this is a fake news story that someone believed and went and shot it up. But then it got completely co-opted by Donald Trump and other people to just sort of admit something they didn't like.
Totally. My bosses, Jim Vanaheim, Mike Allen, and myself wrote a piece about this, how fake news has become like a global political weapon. And it's used by despots all over the world to just sort of condemn any reporting or news that they don't like, not necessarily that's not true. One of the big turning points that I've seen with fake news is that for a long time, big tech companies like the Googles and Facebooks and Twitters of the world defined fake news as really anything that was like spam or clickbait.
Okay.
Because that's something you can actually get in trouble for with the FTC. We don't really have strong internet libel laws. So who is responsible for taking down fake news? Well, it should be the tech companies, right? But they don't have any legal incentive to take it down.
Right, sure.
They only have legal incentive to take down things that are like clickbait. The big shift that I've seen in the past year is they're now starting to actually take content and the value of that content into a little bit more consideration. Look at Twitter. Twitter just purged a bunch of right-wing accounts. Some people are crying foul and saying, well, you're using editorial judgment to say that I don't deserve a verification or an account. It's the first time Twitter's actually kind of using that judgment to do some censoring.
It's about time, frankly.
I mean, it depends, there's so many different perspectives on like, to what extent do you censor people on your platform? This has been a huge, and it's interesting with Iran happening right now. This has been a huge problem for these tech companies because these are global companies. 88% of Facebook's users are outside of the U.S. And if you think about where they have footholds around the world, it's sort of up-and-coming countries where a lot of people, this is their first time where they have a voice. People credit Google and Facebook for giving people access to, speak out during the Arab Spring. And so if you censor too much, the worry that these companies have is you're not giving some people voices. Now, if you censor too little, you have a fake news problem, and that's what we have in the U.S.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that they should or shouldn't do any one thing or another. Of course, I think false news and information is a big problem in the U.S., but we have no legal basis or incentive for these companies to weed it out, and they don't have any business incentive to weed it out.
That's the thing. I mean, this has gone on for a long time. I mean, we just recently sort of grabbed onto this whole fake news fever, right?
Yes.
But like, this is not new.
No, it's not new. And I think what's interesting is a lot of people figured out how to game the system. That's why a lot of these companies, too, they're going after some of the economic incentives to create fake news, because fake news, hyper-partisan stuff, creates a ton of engagement on Facebook. So people are realizing, okay.
Great.
You hear about these troll farms, right, in Florida. They're not just making right-wing content. It's the same shop making right and left, and they do it because you can get clicks and you can make money. So what Google and Facebook and a few others are doing is they're saying, we're going to remove the economic incentives. We're going to make it harder for you to make money. Maybe we remove your advertising privileges if we see that you're putting out spammy stuff. But at the end of the day, that does not address blatantly false or lies, false content or lies. And quite frankly, I don't know that these tech companies will ever crack down on that because, like I said, there's no legal or business incentive to do it.
No, that's the thing. Like, as I'm watching, specifically Twitter, and Facebook has said some stuff about it, but like Twitter getting rid of some people and all that, like, it's taken them this long to figure out anything, not even a solution, but just like some action.
It's taken them this long to feel the incentive to do it. They could have, my perspective is that these tech companies are pretty sophisticated. They could have been putting, more stop guards in place for a long time, but I don't think they realized that they needed to do it up until now because, and you're hearing, we report about this a lot at Axios, there's this global backlash against tech right now. I mean, think about things like the Equifax breach and the Yahoo breach and, the WannaCry cyber attack. People are starting to think, wow, am I safe online? Is my data safe? Is my privacy safe? And as all of those issues come about, these tech darlings that we, sort of glorified as being a source of democratized information are suddenly being viewed as being a little bit dangerous to our society.
Yeah.
So these companies now are starting to think more heavily about it because they don't want to be regulated. They don't want anyone to come at them. So that's sort of the state of play when it comes to these companies. But it has a huge implications, not just for tech and media, but for politics and for, social welfare. The way that people access information changes the way that people live. So it's starting to become a much bigger conversation.
By the way, on that comment about the Equifax data breach, there's a great piece on Politico.com where they said that basically nothing has happened. 145 million Americans had their data breached. Congress has done nothing.
Yep.
Nobody's done anything.
Yeah. So this has been it's funny. Andrew Ross Sorkin asked our editor about this today. He said, will Congress do anything? And the answer is probably not.
No, of course not. No, of course not.